So let's talk about ratios and unit rates. If you want to pause this video long enough to go over the material in blue, go for it. Now let's go ahead and get started. So the floor of a room measures 18 feet long and 12 feet wide. An architect drawing a scale model of the room needs to determine the ratio, which is a fraction, of the room's length to the width. So we're just writing it in ratio form, and we're going to reduce it to the lowest terms. And it says that it is 18 feet long, 12 feet wide, and it said we're doing the ratio of length to width. So it's going to be 18 twelfths. Now, that won't be my final answer because I can reduce it. So let's reduce it. I'm trying to get my pen right. My apologies. All right, here we go. So I'm going to look at it. 18 is even and 12 is even. So let's try 2. 2 times 9 is 18. And let me rewrite this just a little neater. There we go. 2 times 9. And then 12 is 2 times 6. And it reduces by 2 and leaves me with 9, 6. And 9 is made up of 3 times 3. And 6 is 2 times 3. So we're going to reduce it by 3. Now remember, we come back here. 2 goes into itself once. So 1 times 9 gave me 9. 1 times 6 gave me 6. 3 goes in itself once. And I got 1 times 3 over 1 times 2. And this is my final answer. It's in an improper format. So it's an improper fraction. Be sure and read. It may ask just for a fraction, which we could leave it like this. Or if it asks you to put it as a mixed number, we'll need to convert it. So just be sure and read the instructions. And if you want to do this as a mixed number, just in case, as a reminder, let's do it. The denominator does not change. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to, you don't have to use this method, but I'm just going to show you a straightforward method. The numerator goes on the inside, the denominator on the outside, and I ask myself, 2 times what gets me close to 3? 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. So this number here is the whole number. It's going to go right here. This here is the numerator, the new numerator, and it's going to go in the numerator. So let's go ahead and do that. They just so happen to be the same number, it's a 1. All right, so the next one says, write each ratio as to a fraction in the lowest terms. The 2 is telling me that it's division. Ratio told me it was division because it's a fraction. So I have 2 1/2 divided by 5 1/2. So first thing I'm going to do is convert it to an improper fraction and then apply the rules of division of fractions. First thing I know is that the denominator does not change. So let's go ahead and write it down. To find the new numerator, I'm going to say the denominator times that whole number plus the numerator here. Denominator times the whole number plus the numerator. All right. So now I have, and let me just do this right quick. Now I have 2 times 2 plus 1. So let's do that. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. And then this one over here gives me 2 times 5 plus 1. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Now, division of fractions says we're going to keep the first term, change the operation, flip the second. So I got 5 halves times 2 11ths. And I noticed that 2's reduce with itself 1 time. So now I got 5 times 1 over 11 times 1. And that's a proper fraction. So that's as far as I'm going to go with that one. All right, so example 3 says the longer of 2 lengths of a pipe measures 2.4 meters and the shorter measures 1.56. We're going to write this in a ratio of the length of the longer pipe to the length of the shorter pipe. So it's going to be 2.4 meters divided by 1.56 meters. Now, when we do long division, we have to reduce this to lowest terms unless it just says that's how they want it. However, we're going to go ahead and reduce this to lowest terms. And in order to divide, we notice that the denominator here has a decimal in it, and we're not supposed to have a decimal in it. So I'm going to move it to the right, however many places it takes to make it a whole number. And in this one, it's going to be 1, 2. So I'm going to move it 2 places. Now, the rule is whatever you do to one part of this ratio of the equation or function, you have to do to all parts. So since I moved it to the right 2 places in the denominator, I must do the same to the numerator. And now let's rewrite it. I got 240 over 156. So I'm going to come over here and divide. 240 goes in the numerator, 156, excuse me, inside the doghouse is the numerator, outside is the denominator. So 240 is my numerator. Next, I'm going to say, how many times will 156 go into 240? I'm going to come over here if you're unsure. And let's add 156 with 156. 6 plus 6 is 12, carry the 1. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. It busted. So I'm just going to say it goes into it once. This here is saying 156 times 2. Okay, if I add it again, it'd be times 3. So let's subtract this out. Well, I can't take 6 out of 10, so I got to borrow from the 4, making it a 10 over here. And I said that wrong. I said I can't take 6 out of 10. I meant I can't take 6 out of that 0. So I misspoke. Let me start over with this one here. All right, 6, I can't take out a 0, so I'm going to borrow from the 4, making it a 3, carrying a 1 over, making that a 10. But 5 won't come out of 4, and I reduced it down to 3, and it's still, so I'm going to, even if it reduced and it made it, it's still not going to be reduced down big enough. But still, the point is, originally the 5 is not going to come out of the 4, so we're going to have to borrow anyways, making the 2 a 1 and bringing a 1 over. So now I got 10 minus 6 is 4, 13 minus 5 is 8, and let's add a decimal, put a 0, and I probably didn't give myself enough room. Let's put that 0 there. So if 2 brings it to 312, 4 would take it to 640 or 24. Let's try 7. 7 times 6 is 42. Carry the 4. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 4 is 39. Carry the 3. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. So that busted, right? So let's subtract 156 from this. Of course, we're going to have to borrow because you can't take 6 out of 2. There we go. So now I have 12 minus 6 is 6. 8 minus 5 is 3. And since 5 was coming out of 9, that we didn't have to borrow for it. We're going to move on and look at the 0 over 1. Well, we'll have to borrow from this 1, making it a 0, carrying a 1 over. So 10 minus 1 is 9. That's still a bust. This would have been 6 times that. So if I subtract it one more time, or you could just multiply it by 5, we know 5 is going to be our answer, but we got to figure out what that is. And I don't want to write on this next part, so let's come over here. So 156 times 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 3 is 28. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. That's the one we're going to use. So it said that it was 5 times. So 780. Subtract. I'm going to have to borrow. So 14 minus 8 gives me 60. Let's bring down a 0. All right. So now we're at 600. So there's a possibility that it's going to be 4 times that it goes into this. It didn't say what to round to, unfortunately. So We may have to go a little ways off. I didn't see where it said to round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and round to the nearest hundreds. So that means I got to go out to the thousands place, and I didn't give myself enough room on my paper here. So I'm going to rewrite it just so I can scoot over. So let's scoot it over to right here. So I'm going to rewrite it. Let's see. My apologies, guys. I really should have gave myself more room. I knew I was going to have this problem. All right, a little big. Okay, so now I'm going to erase this. So be sure and read the directions that, when you're doing the homework, it should tell you how far to round. All right, so I'm at 600, and I wanted to see if 4 times that, how close that would get me. 4 times 6 is 24, carry the 2. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22, carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. That busted. So if I subtract 156, I have to borrow from the 2 to make the 4 14, in which 5 wasn't going to come out of 2, so I was going to have to borrow anyways. Okay, so 14 minus 6 is 8. 11 minus 5 is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. So we're going to put 4, and it's going to be 468. Let's subtract that. Again, we're just going to have to borrow. And there we go. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 6 is 3. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down the 0. What do we have over here? That was 7, got me at 1,000. So if I take that 1,092, add one more, 156, that would be 8 times. Okay, that'll work. So 8 times. So I'm going to stop there because I said round to the nearest hundreds. So I got 1.57, or excuse me, 48. So in order to round to the nearest hundreds, I got to acknowledge that the 4 is in the hundreds place. I'm going to look behind it. It's just a yes or no question. Is the number behind it, is it equal to or greater than 5? All it has to be is a yes or no, and all it has to do is be true for the or, the equal, or the greater than. In this case, it's yes. I'm going to add 1 to the 4, drop the 8. So now I'm going to put it up here at the top. My answer is 1.55. And I used the approximate sign because I had to round, right? It's not exact. All right. So this next example, you're given a pie graph and a pie chart, and it asks a circle. You can call it pie, or you can call it a circle graph chart, whichever one you want to call it. It's the same thing. You're asked to find the ratio of this finances. A, it says the ratio of money budget for food to money budget for taxes. So you see here, here's the food. So we have 650 over taxes, which is 200. And you would reduce this, right? I see that 50 will go into both of them. So I'm going to reduce it by 50. Now there's 2 50s in 100, right? And if I have 650s there, or excuse me, 650 that I'm dividing the 50 by, I know that it goes into it 13 times. If you need to do the long division, I encourage you to do the long division. All right. Again, 50 happens in 100 twice, and there's 200 here, so that means it goes into it 4 times. Okay. So now the 50s go into themselves 1 time, and I'm left with 13 fourths. And 13's prime. 4 is made up of 2, so it's not going to reduce any further. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. The next one says find the ratio of the mortgage payment to the total payment. So the mortgage is $1,200. The total means I'm going to add every one of these up. So I'm going to take the $1,200 mortgage, add it to the food, $650, add it to the utilities of $325, add it to the taxes, $200, and add it to the other of $1,450. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll down just a little bit more. So now let's add that up. So 1,200 plus 650 plus 325 plus 200 plus 1,450 gives me $3,825. Oh, and that's 1,200 over that. Now, when you go to add these up, I would just line them up. You can do two at a time if you want. You can line them all up at once. It's whatever is best for you. I'm almost done. So just lining them up. Sometimes it's easier. Just don't forget, if you do two at a time, don't forget them. Don't forget one. How's that? And there we go. All right. So now if it will reduce, I'll try to reduce. Well, since 1,200 ends in a 0 and 3,825 ends in a 5, I'm going to start a little big. I'm going to try dividing it by 25, because I notice right here is 3,825. So if I do that, it's going to be times 153. Now the 1,200 divided by 25, we know there's 4 25s in 100, and there is 1,200 here of them. So there's 12 of the hundreds. It's going to be 25 times 48. 25 reduces. Now I got 48 over 153. However, 48, if I say 4 plus 8, that's 12. So that's a product of 3. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 3 is 9. That's also a product of 3. So I'm going to use 3 to divide these two out to reduce them by this. I didn't use 2 because 48 does end in even number, but however, the 153 didn't. So I looked to see if the sum would give me that answer. So 3 times 16 gives me 48. 153 divided by 3 is going to be times 51. Okay, guys. So I would use long division. If you can't see this off the top of your head on the division, this is a proper fraction. This is in lowest terms. 16 is made up of 2's. 51 is not. All right. Let's move on. Now, the lengths of the sides of a triangle. It says it's 10, 24, 26. So to find the lengths of the triangle, it says find the ratio of the length of the longest side to the length of the shortest side. So it gave us the ratio they want us to use. They said the longest side to the shortest side. All right, so the longest side is 26 and the shortest side is 10. So I'm going to have 26 over 10. We always reduce, right? So unless it specifies not to. So I'm going to try 2 because they're both even. So 2 goes into 26 13 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times, and it reduces by 2. So my answer is 13/5. We're going to find the ratio of the lengths of the shortest side to the lengths of the longest side. So let's go 10 over 26. Again, they still reduce. This time it's going to give me 5/13. They still reduce by 2. Okay. Join back in on the next one on the next section, or the next part of this section. Thank you.